Greetings, DLHS community. Welcome to a brand new edition of Holding Court here on the First State Hoops Report YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, FSHR founding editor Chris Stevens. Hopefully, you all are doing well out there, and thank you for making us a part of your screen time on this fine Sunday. However you use your screen time otherwise, it's none of our business, but we're glad that you decided to spend some of it with us. We greatly appreciate it. As usual, if you need to find us on your smartphone, laptop, whatever, every available social media platform and our contact info will be in the description below. Also, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you can catch up on all the video highlights of the games we cover, as well as this podcast/vlog. Busiest week of the basketball season for us so far, made it to 8 games, so a lot on the boys and girls fronts that are going to make these last 2 weeks very interesting. Basketball season goes by fast. That's one thing I've noticed in just doing this. Like, as a sports journalist for 15, 20 years, you get all kinds of seasons. I mean, you have winter, fall, spring, summer events. Basketball season is the one that I enjoy the most, which is why First State Hoops Report exists, And it just goes by too fast. We're talking about starts last week in November, first week of December. Here we are getting ready to go into the second week of February. And there are teams with anywhere from about 5 to only 3 or even 2 games left. So getting down to the nitty-gritty, if you will, of the regular season. We still have some conference titles to decide. I think there may be a couple of players coming up on 1,000 points. I'll have to reach out to coaches about that. And we will see who will be left standing once we get to Friday, February 24th, which is when the tournament seedings will be drawn. So very much looking forward to that. Basketball season on the boys' side continues to be a game of musical chairs. SL24 UnLocke the Classic. Looking forward to talking more about that later on in this podcast. Was this weekend at the Chase Fieldhouse. Didn't have any issues getting in the door this time, thank goodness. And the 2 most surprising results of the day were the last 2 games of the day. Middletown jumped out to a really quick 10-0 lead over Howard. They never looked back, won that one 77-48. Sanford overcame a 34-25 fourth quarter deficit to beat Sal's in the nightcap 49-47. And I talked to Mr. Curtis Watkins after the Sanford Sal's game. If you're not familiar, Mr. Curtis is one of the OGs of the Delaware basketball media movement. And I told him I felt between 10 or 12 teams could win the state title on the boys' side, and none of those 10 or 12 would surprise me. There's a lot of talent spread around the state, a lot of well-coached teams, a lot of disciplined and solid game plans. And, of course, it's all about getting hot at the right time. And, if you're playing your best basketball in November and December, the law of averages catches up with you eventually. But if you're playing your best basketball middle of February all the way through to March, you don't know where it'll take you. It could take you pretty far. We saw that with Tower Hill last year. I mean, Tower Hill was 20-3 last year. It wasn't like, they slugged through the regular season, just was like, let's warm up for tournament time. They were good all year, but they were dynamite when it counted the most. We saw that, obviously. Same with St. E's in 2018, honestly. Just play your best ball between now and March, and you never know where you can end up. Conference races are still very much up in the air for the most part. Middletown has a one-game lead over Appo. Howard leads AI by a game in Flight B. Same for Seaford over Laurel and Henlope and South. Polytech is the one that is going to be closest to clinching because they have a 2-game lead over Dover and Cape. So it feels like their next win likely clinches the Henlope and North for them outright. Conrad's biggest test for the Diamond State title is coming up because they still haven't played Archmere yet. And Tower and Sanford will actually square off this coming Saturday at Tower Hill for the Independent Conference title. Ty Perry, who of course took over for Stan Waterman, who is now coaching Delaware State, deserves a ton of credit for getting this Sanford team, back to contender status. They've battled some bumps and bruises this year. Really tough schedule, but the talent is obviously there. I mean, it's always there. It's Sanford. Tommy Vaughn and Dayon Pope make a great backcourt tandem. Chris Stanford's back in the lineup. He missed a few games with illness. He's back. They're working him back into the lineup. You got glue guys like Jordan Spencer and Sean Forrest, who were huge last night in that fourth quarter against Sally's. And Jaden Taylor's development is going to be fun to watch for that team because 6'7" jumping jacks who are sophomores, who are active and athletic, don't really grow on trees around here. So that Sanford team is the one that you don't want to sleep on come tournament time. Like I said, there are 10 or 12 teams. If you take note of the First State Hoops Report top 10, 10 of them are in there. And there are a couple outside of that who could probably, make a run. So the boys tournament is going to be fun to watch. Very much looking forward to that. Important games on that side of the coin this week. Start right off on Monday. St. George's visits Middletown. Cavs can clinch a tie for the Flight A title if they win, while St. George's, who's 2 games behind Middletown, could make things tight for Middletown if they beat the Cavaliers, because Apple would still have just 1 loss. So it'd be Middletown and Apple with just 1 loss. But if Middletown wins, then that likely clinches a tie for Flight A for them. Odessa visits Mount Pleasant on Tuesday. That's a game that has tournament seeding implications, because Odessa was 7-13 in their first varsity season a year ago with a bunch of freshmen and sophomores. Now those freshmen and sophomores are sophomores and juniors, and they are 11-4 coming into this week. If things break their way in terms of seeding, other conferences, experiencing losses and different things of that nature, they could get a first-round home game, which would be very interesting for a second-year varsity program. Mount has had a few tough losses, in recent weeks. But the good news is that Flight A is so good that they're probably going to rack up a ton of bonus points. You have Middletown that's above a 701 winning percentage. Apple, who's above a 701. St. George's, who's above a 701. Hodson and Newark are above 501. Del Castle isn't that far behind. So Mount's going to get the bonus points, but a win here would very much help their chances to kind of avoid, one of the lower seeds and, one of the tougher parts of the draw. Also on Tuesday, Caravel visits Louisiana. That's a game of intrigue. Caravel's won, not 4 straight. Yes, 4 straight since losing that overtime game to Apple a couple of weeks ago. So Louisiana's looking to regroup after the Sanford loss. Then, of course, Sanford visits Tower Hill on Saturday to determine the independent conference champion. So it's going to be a great week for boys basketball. Go to websiteforsports.com, find your favorite team schedule, grab a ticket, and go watch them play. On the girls' side of things, it's about to get real interesting, especially for the young ladies who wear red and black and who reside on Pennsylvania Avenue. Ursuline has their first 2 serious in-state tests this week. Caravel comes in on Tuesday, and Sanford on Friday. That's going to be the boys or girls game of the year Friday night. They moved that game to 7 p.m., which is cool from a commuting standpoint. As I've mentioned, parking over there, get it while you can. That game deserves the field house, but if I'm John Noonan, I'm not giving up that home game. I'm absolutely not. So I understand it completely. And this is going to be a test for that team, because they've played very well against out-of-state competition, and they've been just absolutely dominant against in-state competition. But you're coming up against the defending state champs on Tuesday and the runner-up with so much to prove on Friday. So if Ursuline, wins those 2, then we probably may have to start talking about them as one of the great single-season wonders in the history of the state, boys or girls. Even if they lose 1, or even if they lose both, that's still going to be a proven test for a young team that John Noonan would absolutely love to have coming down the stretch, finding out what this team is made of, when things are tight. Conference races are a little more settled on the girls' side. AI pretty much wrapped up Flight B with their win over Concord on Friday. Cape and Woodbridge have multiple game leads in the Henlope and North and South, respectively. And Sanford and Appo are pretty much locked in as the independent and Flight A champs. Diamond State title is likely to be resolved this coming Wednesday. DMA visits Archmere. As I mentioned before, Archmere coach Dan Pisani and I have an inside joke whenever I come to a game to cover a game. He knows it's going to be 1 possession or 2 possessions. So I told him on Twitter when he talked about the big game coming up, I said, just to be fair to the blood pressure of everybody involved, First Day Hoops Report will be there when Archmere hosts DMA on Wednesday. Very much looking forward to that game. Finally got a chance to see another downstate girls team. I already saw Cape. I saw Woodbridge on stream against Ursuline. And I came away very impressed with Smyrna under Caravel boys standout Eric Gums. And they play an impressive brand of basketball to me with the way they play defense. They have 3 bigs who can rebound. They have 3 guards who can score. When you have 6 players who can do different roles at different times, that makes you a nightmare team in a first-round scenario. Like if a team just looks past you, you could send them home. And Smyrna definitely is one of those teams that has that potential. And it was one of my favorite post-game interview that I've done this year, because they were like, we got to be on camera? Oh, man, what are the questions? Like, they're really not used to the exposure. And Coach Gums was like, y'all got to get used to it because you're winning. And they actually did a really good job with the questions that I asked in the interviews. You can check that out. It's Smyrna versus Middletown on the First State Hoops Report YouTube channel. Just look for Smyrna, and you should be able to find them. Girls basketball in Delaware is growing. That's something I just wanted to get across. You'll see it with the talented girls at Ursuline, the incredible teams at Sanford, Caravel, Archman, and Tadnall, and you got resourcefulness in the public school systems like with APO, Cape, AI, Smyrna, and so on. There's a chance the girls' game could develop into something really special if we can impress upon these kids that you can stay home and still be seen by the right coaches, the right scouts, the right recruiters, because we've got 2 NBA players and 2 WNBA players who have played every minute of their high school basketball here in Delaware. If you're good, trust, they will find you. You don't have to go play in Pennsylvania. You don't have to go play in New Jersey. You don't have to go play in the DMV. It really depends on where you land, honestly, because the private schools, they are much better at at marketing their players. Public schools don't have the budgets to market. That's why these tournaments, these showcases are so important. But if we can get these kids to stay home and see that you can still play in Delaware and be seen by the right coach and the right scout and the right recruiter, that is a big win for the state. And it's an important part of growing the game here in Delaware. Important girls games this week, as we've already mentioned, Caravel and Ursuline on Tuesday and Sanford and Ursuline on Friday. Those are the ones you definitely want to get a stream for if you can't get a ticket. Again, Archman hosts DMA for the Diamond State title on Wednesday. Thursday has a handful of battles for tournament positioning. Tadnall visits Wilmington Charter, Howard visits Concord, and Smyrna hosts Sussex Tech. Again, head over to the website for sports, find out where your favorite Hoopers are playing, make the necessary arrangements, go see them play. And of course, I couldn't let this episode lapse without acknowledging the importance of this past weekend's SL24 Unlock the Light Classic at the Chase. As you can see, I have an SL24 Unlock the Light logo on my shirt. And it was so funny because I wanted to get a shirt as I walked in, but the games got so good and it was so exciting just, taking pictures and video and talking to folks. And I was like, wait a minute, I forgot to get a shirt. So as I'm walking out of the Chase last night, so I went and they were like, excuse me, because I usually wear a double X. And the lady was like, you can fit into a single. And I thought she was just trying to sell me a shirt. Obviously, you want to buy a shirt because it's for a good cause. And I was like, if I get on camera and this shirt is absolutely squeezing the hell out of my body, we're going to have a problem. But no, apparently all the running that I do, shout out to Sean Green, who constantly makes me look bad with his running times. I ran a 5K on Saturday morning at just over 36 minutes. I thought I was doing it. And then, of course, Sean tweets out 27 minutes on my 40-day run streak, whatever it is. Thanks, Sean. Greatly appreciate that. But yeah, the running that I'm doing is paying off because this shirt actually is a nice fit. But that's beside the point. I hope people really understand that, to give you background, the event honors the memory of Sean Locke, a former St. Mark's grad and University of Delaware basketball player who battled mental illness until 2018. And his father, Chris, decided his son's passing would not be in vain. And I feel like that's one of the most selfless, loving acts ever, to say that I don't want any other parent to deal with this pain, to deal with this hurt that's going to stay with me forever. I want kids to know that you can talk to someone, you can say that you're not okay, you can say that you need help, and you can get the help. That's the most important thing in battling mental illness and depression, is that people need to know that they're heard, people need to be known that they're seen, and people need to know that they can get help if something or someone is bothering them. Mental health is like physical health. Like when you don't feel well, like if you feel like you got a tickle in your throat, you're sneezing, you're coughing, you feel lethargic, exhausted, what do? You go to the doctor. If you feel like the world is overwhelming, you feel depressed, anxious about things, you need to take care of that as well. Like you can't just say that I'll get over it, because some things, it takes a little more help to get over. And I really hope the parents from all walks of life, black, white, if your child is an athlete, if your child is a scholar, or just a normal kid, I hope parents from all walks of life take heed to Chris's message, because you need to check in with your kids at all times, because you don't know what they're dealing with. growing up in the 90s, especially in a black household, depression was something that we didn't really talk about that much. Or, it was always, you better depress that pen to paper and finish your homework. So now that there's a larger national world conversation about mental health, people are learning that it's just important as your physical health. You have to take care of that as much as you take care of your mind as much as you take care of your body. You really have to. And I hope people understand that you can get the help, and for the young people out there, the world sucks. Yes, it does. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I mean, there's just so much going on we're still in the throes of a pandemic, you know, economic stuff, everything ain't gold around here. So you can understand why people are anxious. You can understand why people may feel like, things are getting to them. But please know that your life matters. People love you. People want to help you. People want to see you succeed. People want to help you have a happy, healthy life. Just reach out. Do it confidentially. Find someone that you trust and just say, hey, I'm not in a good place right now. I really could use some help. And watch how many people come to your rescue. You are worth the effort. Trust and believe. And that is why SL24 Unlock the Light is so important. And every year I'm able, I will be glad to support. I will be glad to cover the games. I'll be glad to talk about mental health and just impress upon everyone out there that it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to say that you need help and get the help. And we should all be making this effort just for each other. Just be kind to each other. Help out where you can. Say that you need help. And we can probably save plenty of lives. And that will be Sean Locke's greatest lasting legacy. That's gonna bring us to the final buzzer here on Holding Court. As always, greatly appreciate y'all's ears, minds, and hearts, and eyes as well. Once again, all of our social media channels in the description below. 2.5 weeks left of basketball season. It's really nitty-gritty time. Much looking forward to the end of this regular season and the state tournament. So look forward to seeing you all in the gyms this week. Until then, take care of yourselves mentally, physically, and emotionally. Again, worth effort. Peace out. Doggone it. Okay, now, peace out.